Alright, so here we are. It is January 7th, 2011. And so, yeah, we're here talking tech. I'm actually live on Ustream.tv if you're in the podcast or if you're watching this. That's wonderful. But I'm pretty well live here on Ustream.tv. I'm trying to get the mic closer to my face. But we're pretty well live here on Ustream.tv. I'm answering questions. I told somebody on Twitter that I would post this. So that's what I'm pretty well doing, is I'm going to post this, and hopefully we'll have I'll have some good stuff, and maybe we'll talk about stuff. We were just talking about the Google TV and how the networks keep blocking it, and it's really becoming a problem for Google. But, yeah, that's beside the point. Yeah, so hopefully it can take off and get better. And, yeah, they're pointing out in the chat that I really messed up on the date. But, actually, it's the 7th here where I'm at, Liam, but it probably is the 8th where you're at if you're in other parts of the world. Yeah, I can't talk, by the way. If you guys didn't hear there, I really messed up on the date really bad. So, yeah, do you guys have any questions? But I'm going to go on and start off with one of my topics here, which is the Verizon iPhone. Verizon just announced they were going to have a press conference on the 10th, which I believe is this upcoming Tuesday, which is very interesting. And now, every time Verizon makes a move, pretty much everybody accounts it to the Verizon iPhone. And supposedly some guy from Apple was invited and Steve Jobs is going to be there. I doubt it. Apple wants to do that on their home turf. I don't think they're going to do that at somebody else's conference or at somebody else's press event. I just don't think it's very likely. Will it happen? It very well may. But I just don't see it with, the way Apple is with their secrecy. But I've been surprised before. So, but yeah, that press conference is going to be, I'm hearing the 11th, but I think it's maybe it is the 11th. But, yeah, and maybe they will announce it, but I'm hearing actually rumors of kind of a February 3rd event, which could be very interesting to see about and hear about. Maybe Apple will announce a new iPad and then maybe a Verizon iPhone, but I think a Verizon iPhone honestly makes more sense if they do it on, in June when they announce the iPhone 5 and they say, hey, it's for Verizon. I think that makes wonderful sense, and I think that's what they'll wind up doing. And I think that's just a great idea all around for Apple to do that. And, so, yeah. Liam commented in the chat room that has anybody seen the new Lady Gaga 3D glasses? Polaroid has a whole Lady Gaga line of glasses, and it's absolutely hilarious. They're a whole Lady Gaga line of products in general. They have a digital camera that has film and does digital, and then they've got a camera, or they have a portable printer that's styled with Lady Gaga, and then they've got glasses that are styled after Lady Gaga, and it's just really interesting. I think it's kind of funny, and I guess if you're going to partner with somebody, I guess Lady Gaga's a good person. What do I think about the iPhone and T-Mobile? Sorry, I don't care much about iPhones. What do I think about iPhone on T-Mobile? It's very likely, but for some reason people keep pushing Verizon. I actually think the iPhone on T-Mobile makes more sense because it's on GSM. They have to modify the phone a lot less that way. I think if they would do that, then they would have a much better product or chance. So would it sell as many units? No, but T-Mobile makes a little bit more sense. But I still think Verizon iPhone is coming, and then they'll work down to the smaller carriers because Verizon and AT&T are the bigger carriers at the moment. And then let's talk about 4G here. And AT&T showed off some 4G, and it's absolutely astounding. Some of the speeds they're giving, and they're getting. I saw a video of a CES where AT&T announced 20 4G smartphones that were coming out later this year, and they were doing some demos of download speeds, and they were getting download speeds of like 60 megabits per second down. 60 megabits per second. That is amazing for an internet connection at all, much less having it, wireless. That's faster than my home internet. So if that's possible, I can actually see that replacing my home internet, getting a 4G router and going nuts. Or a 4G modem and router or something, and that would be awesome. I can just see that really could theoretically replace it. And these cable companies are going to have to get on the ball to get this working. I think if they don't do something quickly, that they're going to wind up missing out because, even though Google is saying they're going to have a 1 gigabit per second internet speed, I don't know. I still haven't seen much about that. They still haven't even started up the demo trials yet, so I'm not sure. But it's really interesting to see what they do. Maybe they'll get the 1 gigabit per second, but that would be really awesome. But still, I think that would be really great to even have those 4G speeds in your home. Because right now, I only get 20 megabits per second down at the most. And I see that actually as kind of fast, kind of slow. That's pretty fast considering. So, what more can I say other than, I think that 4G is going to be really great. Next, I want to talk about the Mac App Store, which I think is really cool. And Mac App Store launched yesterday because this is the 7th. And I've had time to play around with it. And supposedly they sold 1 million units, or apps, in the first 24 hours, which is absolutely astounding. To sell 1 million of anything is awesome. And a lot of companies are coming out and saying, okay, either we made our apps cheaper in the Mac App Store, or we are going exclusively to the Mac App Store. We're not even going to sell online anymore. We're going to sell exclusively to the App Store. And I believe, I can't remember what app it was, but they announced today that they were going totally Mac App Store. I'm checking right now, but I do not remember. It was Pixelmator, which is a competitor to Photoshop, which is much cheaper. It's $30 on sale right now, and it looks like a really neat app. I think I might have to buy it and try it out, but it looks really neat. And they're saying they're going totally Mac App Store only. That's all they're going to do is Mac App Store. And I think that's very interesting that they're going to take that route and that path, and maybe it'll work out for them, maybe it won't. But I think I think it's going to work really well. The only thing I don't like is you can't have free trials, which I think is a very important part about selling software, because if I don't know how it works, why am I going to buy it? And that's been a really big part of the Mac apps, or the iOS App Store, is the light versions. There's probably more light versions than there are regular apps in the App Store, full page, so that's part of it. So I think if they can get some kind of free trial basis down, I think that would really be great. Because other than that, you're going to have 2 apps again, like they did back in iOS 2.0. And because now you can do in-app purchases, but they're still pretty prominent there. And Flamer in the chat room just said, have I heard about the Motorola Atrix dock and the lap dock? And that's really neat. I think that's very interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to work. And it's basically a laptop, pretty much. It has a little dock in the back for your Motorola smartphone, and you dock it down in there, and it basically puts your phone's UI or something, uses your phone to drive that laptop pretty much. So now you've got that full keyboard. I'm guessing you can surf the web with your 4G speeds, which will be a 4G capable phone. And I just think it'll be really neat to see how that works out for them. And it's really awesome in theory, but in practice, everything is always different. And going back to the Mac App Store, Liam says he loves Angry Birds in the App Store. I haven't actually played Angry Birds for the Mac, mostly because I know it's probably exactly the same as the iPhone version or the iPad version. Can you speak for that and say if it's different or if it's better than the iOS version? Doesn't look like you can respond here. It may take me a minute. But, I think going back to Motorola, I think that they're really pushing this, and I think they really could they're doing a much better job with their products now, and they're really starting to make some great smartphones. And a lot of people are saying they're addicted to Angry Birds, and I actually haven't played it. It's $5 in the Mac App Store, and I think that's a wonderful price for an app in general. I think it's a great price. I think for a Mac app, and I think that's actually going to be the killer. Ironically enough, gaming is going to be the killer feature possibly of the Mac App Store, because this is the first time you can go and buy games, for the Mac in one central location. And I find that very interesting, which now there's no hardcore serious games yet. If there ever will be, I don't know. But I would love to be able to go on here and say, pick up a copy of I don't know, Army of Two, or I'm trying to think of Call of Duty maybe, or just some examples. I don't expect those specific titles, but games like those, Quake, that would be really awesome to see that and have that on your Mac, and that could potentially put Valve, the maker of Steam, in a really awful situation. So they're really going to have to work hard to keep their competitors away from Steam, and or keep their competitors away from the Mac App Store. And I'm not currently aware of how much Steam pays per sale, but I really wish that Steam would actually bring more games to the Mac, because I haven't actually seen that very many that were actually good titles. Anyway, yeah, and you said that you had, and Liam does say that Angry Birds is a lot like for the iPhone, but you said it's still worth a try. So let's check that out. And one thing I do want to point out is the new Twitter app from app for the Mac, which came out with the Mac App Store. Was the first app I downloaded, and I loved it. It's great. It's much better than Tweety. And since I bought the Mac Heist Nano bundle back in like last spring, I get some secret features that nobody else has right now, which is really awesome. Nothing really groundbreaking, nothing really special. I'm guessing they're going to be coming in future updates to the app, but these are, I guess, beta features, or ones that they can't decide if they want to use in the final release or not. But I really love it. I love the new interface, and now I can actually look at retweets correctly. Let's talk about what if Windows did an app store. What if? I know it's a big if, but what if Windows did a Mac or did an app store? And, what would you guys in the chat room say? Because it would be really interesting, because I think that is a market possibly for them to have, an app store, because the Mac community has always had a very vibrant community, a community that's very passionate and makes some great applications. I'm not saying that speaks for everybody, but I think that does speak for a certain, that does speak for the big majority of the community, saying that they have some great applications. Twitter for Mac, or Tweety, was a great app. Trying to think of other apps to use as an example, but it's kind of hard for me for some reason. But there's just a really great community out there of applications, and I think they do a great job. For example, NetNewsWire. It's a Mac-only RSS reader. It's great. Rip It, which is to let you rip the DVDs you own. That's a great app. And there's just a whole big community like that, and I think it's great. And if Windows should have this, I think it'd be great, and hopefully help out the community. And Flamer says that Ubuntu has an app store. Well, it lists programs what could be installed with a click. And yeah, that is true. And if you have used Ubuntu, which is a Linux-based operating system, and it does do that. And I guess that's great. I don't know how often they update it, but yeah. And Liam says that'd be kind of copying, but it'd be good for them, as they might think they are being left out. I think that Microsoft does actually a great job at copying Apple. And that's ironic and very funny, but they actually do. Like, they tried for a long time to steer away from Apple's strategies in the cell phone business. But now that they actually got into that and decided, okay, well, we're going to be in the cell phone business, let's do it like Apple. Let's have a marketplace. We're going to curate the heck out of it. And they just decided that. And that's when they made a good phone. I think Windows Phone 7 is a really good idea, and I think they did a great job making it. Also, and if they did have a Windows App Store, I think they just need to curate the heck out of it, like I said. Really crack down, say you're like Apple does to an extent, and say your app can't do this, 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 and this. Play the part of Big Brother, say, okay, you're not going to do this, and, put some big titles on there, and I think they could have a great place to get your applications on Windows, because right now it's a nightmare finding good applications on Windows. And I'm just going to be totally honest about that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but sometimes you get a lot of third-rate apps that look terrible. Because I still used a PC for the big majority of my life. And it's just, that's the way the market has been for them. And now, speaking of, this is, the Mac App Store is not the only way you can get apps as of current, if you own a Mac, but it is a great place to go, I think, to get apps. And one thing I do think is really neat is they use your iTunes account, which is pretty nice. So you don't have to make a new account. But, yeah, I think that Apple still has done a great job of streamlining it, because right now, I'll be honest, installing apps on Mac OS X is absolutely painful unless you're using the Mac App Store. The Mac App Store makes it easy with apps dropping down into your dock. It's really beautiful and nice to use. So, yeah. Next, let's talk about CES and the BlackBerry Playbook. Has anybody seen that? It's really a very interesting tablet. Really has copied HP/Palm in a lot of ways with their WebOS. Very interesting that they have copied the heck out of Palm in that aspect, that they have. Let's see, we got something in the chat. My chat doesn't roll automatically for some reason. We'll get to the iPad 2 in just a second. Let me make sure that's on my list. But the BlackBerry Playbook is, obviously from RIM, and they pretty well copied everything from RIM, from WebOS, with the gestures, and it's got a gesture area where you can swipe up, and it's really interesting. And I'm very excited to see that in the market. It's supposed to only be for businesses, though, and I think RIM needs to start focusing on consumer products. I know business is the biggest part of their business, but I think that if they really want to be successful, they really need to start going after the consumer market a bit more. Because right now, the iPhone and the iPad both have really penetrated the business market. I mean, the iPhone 3GS, once they announced that it had hardware encryption, it was over. It was, everybody that wanted an iPhone now that needed that hardware encryption went and got one. And I love it. I think it's very interesting that it was that easy for them to switch, and most people that own a BlackBerry do not plan on buying another BlackBerry. They're planning on going to Android or iOS. They don't want to go, but they don't want to get another BlackBerry. They don't like them. And do I say I don't like BlackBerries? No, I think BlackBerries are really great products, and I think they do a great job. I think they still need to push with their BlackBerry OS 6 and their new tablet OS, obviously. But now that I've talked about that a little bit, you said something about the iPad 2, so let's talk about that. The iPad 2, I'm not really hearing much rumors about that, so I really don't know. But the main thing that I've said since I've held the first version of the iPad, which is this right here, is that I have wanted it to be lighter, because this thing is heavy. And I sat and actually read a book today, and this thing is heavy to hold up, and it really tires you out. Which maybe I'm not the strongest fella ever, but this is really heavy to hold. And I've seen those leaked pics, but those are just computer generated. But where are you seeing the leaked pics today? Now, I've seen leaked pictures, but I haven't seen the leaked pics today. But anyway, yeah, I've seen some computer generated photos of it. But I think it's very interesting. I hope they make it wider. I've seen those computer-generated images where they're thinner, and I think it could be really great. And I hope they have a louder speaker. The cameras are an obvious duh. And the USB, I'm still kind of questioning, because Apple loves their 30-pin connector. They've used that for 10 years now, almost. I think it's been 9. But they love the 30-pin connector, and I don't see Apple just totally ditching that for USB. Now, will it may have a 30-pin connector and a USB? Well, that's just more I/O to put on it, and kind of makes the product more cluttered, I think. And that was the purpose of, having your little adapters they made. I'm pulling mine out here. Oops. But, that was the purpose for having these little adapters, so that way you could get your stuff off of there, and now you don't have to have that extra USB port and that extra SD card slot. So And these are only $30. I kind of wish they were included, or you can choose to get them like when you buy it. That's an option. Do you want these for free? And they say sure, why not? But okay, so they sent me a link in the chat for crap about these leaked pictures. Yeah, those are supposedly user generated, and that's obviously a fake from China, obviously. But I think that that's pretty close to what the hardware could be. I think it's a really good looking product, but the OS and obviously kind of does look like a Chinese fake. But I think that's very likely what it could look like. And another thing I would like to see is the rounded back gotten rid of, because now when you sit it down, it flops around on the table and it's just awful and terrible. It flops around on you. I want that gone. I want to be able to sit it down and scroll and stuff without it flopping around. A Retina display, I'm still kind of questioning, because that would be very expensive. It would be super high resolution. It'd be like 2,000. It'd be like the resolution of my iMac screen in a smaller size, and that would be amazing. But cost efficiency kind of worries me about that one. Will it be cost efficient to do that? Will that make sense for them? Will they still make money to put a Retina display on it? And that's maybe what they're waiting for. I don't expect them to launch it to announce it in January. Is because that maybe they're waiting for parts to go down. I don't know. But I really wish that Apple would do it in January, just to upset people, because that really usually sucks the life out of CES when they do that. And HP and Palm are actually going to be having an announcement about some tablets coming up. So we'll see. I really think that could be interesting to see what HP and Palm has come up with in the tablet space. I think that would be really great to hopefully have some, because I think Palm can create some great OSs, but the hardware has never been there. If they can get the hardware there and the software, then that'd be great. And Liam says that I heard that the iPad could have a micro USB port and also a smudge-proof anti-glare screen. It won't be anti-glare, nothing. I can promise you that. It's supposed to be already smudge-proof, but that's obvious. That's obviously a lie if you own an iPad. Because fingerprints get all over the iPad, and it's absolutely terrible. Your fingerprints wind up all over this thing. But, and the micro USB port, like I said, maybe not. Apple did agree with the European Union to put micro USB on their products by a certain amount of time. I don't remember what it was, or I don't think it may have been never disclosed other than they agreed to it. And so we'll see. But, I think micro USB is a great standard, but I don't know. I really don't on how it's going to work out and if Apple can pull that off. And I think Apple needs to go cold turkey with either way they go. I need to either replace the 30-pin connector and put a mini USB there, or leave out the mini USB, because I think both of them would be kind of ridiculous. I think. But I don't see Apple getting rid of the 30-pin connector, because that goes to all of their iPod lineup, and that's everywhere. If you buy an iPod dock, or if you want to plug it into your car, it's there. But, and I think people are saying that because they want that, not because Apple is doing it. I kind of do that sometimes, but I usually make smarter guesses than they do. People say things just because that's what they hope happens. But I think a USB port would be great. It'd be awesome to manage files that way. But right now, managing files is a nightmare on the iPad. Imagine going up, plugging in a USB drive, and importing your files into Pages or whatever, or into Goodreader, and going with it, being able to post them to, your Dropbox or wherever, and, or like, say, your friend, or you're working in a business, and your partner makes a presentation, he wants you to deliver it, he brings in his flash drive, you plug it in, you do your iPad, and you go. And one thing I would like to see in the next version of the iPad, which is less iPad specific, is hopefully, I would love it to see if Keynote for the iPad had AirPlay. Because how cool would that be for, like, all the conference rooms in America to have a TV in it? So now instead of a projector, you have a TV, big screen TV, Apple TV, you come in with your iPad, and you deliver the Keynote presentation. How wonderful would that be? Look at your finger, you could show people stuff, or your parts of your presentation. A 7-inch iPad, Steve Jobs has already said no 7-inch tablets, period. They're too much like smartphones. Steve Jobs has already said that. He has spoken. And of course, people still think, Steve Jobs just covered it up. Nope. Steve Jobs just doesn't play games, and I think that's what's going to happen in the long run. So whether people like that or not, I actually would personally like to see a 7-inch iPad. I think that'd be wonderful. That'd still give you a nice screen size, bigger than a 3.5-inch iPhone, for instance. But it would still give you it would give you much better portability, I think, and probably get the weight down some. I don't know. Any more questions about that? Now that I've ranted probably for 5 minutes over that one. I guess not. But this. I'm guessing that I'm going to close off this podcast. I had a great time with you guys. I believe I'll still be taking questions. This is the end of the podcast. This will be posted to YouTube and hopefully iTunes eventually. Maybe not today, but eventually I plan to post this to iTunes. So don't forget to thumbs up, comment, and subscribe on iTunes, or subscribe to this podcast. Or subscribe to this podcast if you're on iTunes, or thumbs up, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. So I'll see you guys later.